The restaurant was silent, eerily so. The crystal chandeliers hung perfectly still, as though even they dared not draw attention to themselves. Silverware froze mid-air in trembling hands, and not a single guest dared to breathe too loudly. In the center of the room, beneath a wash of gold light, stood Damien Kwon, the city's most feared Mafia king. But for once, Damien didn't look invincible. His infant son Aiden was screaming in his arms, tiny fists balling and a face red and tear-streaked. The cries tore through the room with desperate force, echoing off glass and marble like an alarm no one knew how to silence. Damien's bodyguards hovered uselessly behind him, unsure whether to reach for the baby or pretend they had not seen their boss's rare moment of helplessness. And Damien, usually as calm as carved stone, looked shaken. A single muscle in his jaw flickered. His grip tightened, but his expression cracked, revealing something no one had ever witnessed: fear and frustration. He whispered Aiden's name, his voice unsteady. "Please, little one, just breathe." But Aiden's cries only grew louder, harsher, more heartbreaking. Customers sat paralyzed. They knew Damien Kwon was a man you never looked at too long, never spoke to out of turn, a man whose silence could kill. Yet tonight, silence refused to obey him. As the baby's wail rose higher, the restaurant felt like it might split in two. Until the back door opened with a soft, barely audible click. A young black waitress stepped inside, her presence strangely grounding. Maya Thompson. Her hair pulled back neatly, her apron smudged from a long shift, her eyes kind but tired, a stark contrast to the fear-stricken faces around her. Unlike everyone else, she didn't shrink or flinch at the tension tightening the air. She walked forward slowly, her footsteps purposeful, calm. As if she were approaching a crying child in a quiet home, not the son of a dangerous mafia lord surrounded by armed men. 2 guards stepped in front of her instantly. Damien's voice cut across the room, cold, sharp. No one comes near him. But Aiden let out a shattering cry, and Maya's face softened with pure instinct. She didn't look at Damien. She didn't look at his guns. She only looked at the child. "Hey, sweetheart," she murmured gently. "It's okay." Something in her tone, a softness the room had been starving for, made the guards hesitate just long enough. And Maya stepped past them. Every guest held their breath. Damien's eyes narrowed, torn between fury and desperation. Maya reached out slowly and placed one hand against Aiden's tiny back. In an instant, the crying stopped. Just stopped. Aiden melted into her arms, his small fingers gripping her uniform like he had finally found the person he wanted. Damien stared, stunned. His breath caught in his throat. His icy expression cracked wide open, revealing disbelief he didn't know how to hide. A woman he'd never met had done the one thing he, with all his power, could not. And around them, the silent question spread like a chill through the room. Who was this woman? And why did Damien Kwon's son choose her over the most feared man in the city? The restaurant settled into a stunned stillness as Maya gently rocked Aiden, humming under her breath. The baby's tiny fingers clung to her uniform as if he'd been waiting his whole short life for her touch. Damien Kwon watched in utter disbelief. For years, he'd built his reputation on being untouchable, an empire forged in iron and silence. He survived betrayals, coups, assassinations. He buried enemies without losing sleep. But this woman, this ordinary waitress, she had just defeated the one thing even he couldn't control: a baby's cry. His baby. Damien's throat tightened with something foreign, something dangerously close to gratitude, or awe. He hated how vulnerable those emotions felt. Maya didn't notice him watching. She was too busy whispering soft comforts into Aiden's ear, swaying gently, naturally, as if the child belonged against her shoulder. Customers stared at the scene like they were witnessing a miracle. Even the chandelier lights seemed warmer, softer, responding to the quiet that wrapped itself around the room. Damien cleared his throat. "Maya," he said. His voice was low, controlled, but not unkind. "That's your name, yes?" She finally looked up at him. Her eyes were brown and steady, with no fear in them, just exhaustion and an inexplicable calm. "Yes," she whispered. "Maya Thompson. You work here?" She nodded. Damien's gaze slid toward his guards. They shifted instantly, ready to move at his command, but instead of giving an order, he looked back at Maya. Really looked. Her uniform was worn. Her sneakers had fraying laces. Her knuckles were calloused. A student trying to survive.
a woman who worked too hard and slept too little, and someone Aiden trusted instantly. Damien had seen thousands of people bow to him, fear him, worship him. But Maya, she didn't bow. She didn't beg. She didn't tremble. She simply held his son as if it was the most natural thing in the world. Aiden whimpered softly, and Maya adjusted him on her shoulder with practiced ease. Damien felt something sharp tug in his chest. Longing, fear, relief, jealousy. He wasn't sure. Aiden had never relaxed like that for anyone, not for the nannies he'd hired, not for the doctors, not even for Damien himself. Damien stepped closer, slowly, as though approaching a fragile miracle. "How did you do that?" he asked. His voice held an edge of desperation he couldn't hide. Maya looked down at the child and gave a small, tired smile. "Some babies sense what they need," she murmured. "Sometimes, it's just warmth, a heartbeat, safety, safety." The word pierced him like a blade. He, Damien Kwon, the most dangerous man in the city, could not offer his son the one thing a stranger provided effortlessly. "Give him to me," Damien said quietly. Maya hesitated, not out of defiance, but because Aiden tightened his hold on her shirt, a soft whimper rising in his throat. Damien saw it. Everyone saw it. The baby didn't want to let her go. A flicker of something raw passed through Damien's eyes. Aiden was all he had left in this world, and the child preferred a woman he'd known for only minutes. That hurt, but it also fascinated him. He nodded once to his bodyguard. The man stepped forward and whispered urgently in Damien's ear. Whatever he said made Damien stiffen. His expression darkened, storm clouds forming behind his calm mask. Maya noticed. "Is everything okay?" Damien didn't answer immediately. His gaze remained fixed on Aiden, safe in her arms. Too safe, almost. There had been rumors, threats, whispers about those who wanted to use his son to hurt him. This coincidence, this moment, he wasn't sure he believed in coincidences. He stepped closer, lowering his voice to a dangerous whisper. "You calmed him tonight," Damien said, "but you don't understand what you stepped into. You walked into the middle of something you don't understand." His voice dropped. "And now you're part of it." Maya's throat tightened. "I didn't do anything wrong." Damien took the final step that closed the last inches between them. His presence swallowed her whole. "Maybe not," he said softly. "But someone in this city wants my son dead." The words made her blood run cold. "And until I know who or why, I'm not letting the one person he clings to walk out of my sight." Maya opened her mouth to protest, but Aiden chose that moment to reach up with a tiny hand and touch Damien's sleeve. Damien glanced down, then back at her, and something terrifyingly human flickered across his face. Not softness, need, please, he said quietly, but with the weight of a command. For his sake, not mine. And in that moment, Maya realized something chilling. She wasn't just holding a mafia boss's son. She was holding the one thing in the world that made the most dangerous man alive vulnerable. For a moment, Maya didn't move. The restaurant watched her as if she were standing at the edge of a cliff with no ground beneath her. Damien Kwon waited, silent but unyielding. His presence closed in around her like a shadow too large to escape. Aiden rested against her chest, calmer now. But every tiny breath he took vibrated with the tension in the room. "Maya," Damien said, low and final, "we're leaving." Before she could respond, the restaurant doors burst open. 3 men in black flooded inside, unfamiliar faces, sharp eyes, movements too coordinated for random customers. Their gaze locked on Damien first, then dropped to Aiden, and something murderous flickered. Maya froze. Damien didn't. He stepped in front of her without hesitation, voice deadly. "Seal the exits." His guards moved instantly, tables shoved aside, guns drawn under napkins. Doors slammed shut, panic rippled through the room as guests ducked for cover. Maya clutched Aiden tightly. The intruders stopped the moment Damien positioned himself between them and the baby. Their leader gave a cold, mocking smile. "Well," he said, "seems the rumors were true. The great Damien Kwon hides behind a waitress now." Damien didn't blink, but Maya felt the temperature drop another degree. "Who sent you?" Damien asked. "Someone tired of your bloodline," the man answered. "Someone who wants the boy." Aiden whimpered. Maya held him tighter. Damien's voice became a low, lethal whisper. You won't leave this building alive." The man smirked. "Then neither will your heir." He moved, too fast, reaching into his coat. "Gun." Maya gasped before she could scream. Damien's arm shot out. He grabbed her waist, pulling her and Aiden behind him in one swift motion, using his body like a shield. Gunshots erupted, glass shattered, guests shrieked. The chandelier trembled from the bullets ricocheting across the room. Damien's guards returned fire, pushing forward as chaos broke loose. But even in the storm, Damien never took his eyes off the men aiming for Aiden. "Down," Damien barked. Maya crouched, shielding the baby with her body. Her heart pounded violently, but she refused to let fear swallow her. A bullet tore through a wine bottle beside her, spraying red liquid across the floor like spilled blood. One of Damien's men took down the first intruder. Another guard wrestled the second to the ground. The third made a desperate grab toward Maya, toward Aiden, and Damien was there in an instant. He slammed the man into a pillar with brutal precision, forearm digging into the man's throat. "Touch him," Damien growled, "and your entire bloodline disappears." The man choked, spitting blood, but smirked with dying arrogance. "You can't protect that child forever." Damien drove him to the floor. Silence crashed over the room.
Aiden cried softly into Maya's shoulder. Slowly, Damien turned toward her. His expression was carved from ice. "You see now?" he said, breath still heavy from combat. "This isn't coincidence. Someone knew where I'd be. Someone knew he'd be vulnerable." Maya swallowed hard. "Damien, why come after a baby?" "Aiden carries my name," Damien replied darkly, "and in my world, names are more powerful than bullets." A shiver ran through Maya. The remaining intruder, bleeding but conscious, looked up with a cruel grin. "You think she's a coincidence too?" he taunted. "You think she just happened to come when the boy screamed?" Damien stiffened. Maya's stomach dropped. "What is he talking about?" The intruder laughed through broken teeth. "Ask him. Ask the man you're clinging to." Damien stepped forward and silenced the man with the hilt of a gun. Maya flinched. Damien's men dragged the attackers away, leaving shattered glass, overturned chairs, and the metallic scent of danger lingering in the air. Damien faced her again, still steady, still composed, but sharper now, less trusting, more wary. "You," he said, voice low and controlled, "are coming with me. Now." But this wasn't random. Someone knew to strike tonight. He looked at Aiden, then at Maya. "And until I find out who, I'm not risking my son's life." Maya felt Aiden's small fingers curl against her skin. His tiny heartbeat thudded softly against her own. She looked at Damien. He wasn't begging. He wasn't soft. He wasn't indecisive. He was a man who had just survived an assassination attempt, and who now believed that Maya, a simple waitress, might be the key to either saving his son or exposing whoever wanted the child dead. Maya swallowed, whispering, What happens now?" Damien stepped closer, shadows swallowing the last inch of light around him. "Now," he said, holding her gaze like a blade, "you enter my world." And just like that, everything she feared, everything he couldn't control, everything Aiden needed collided in a single, irreversible moment. The ride to Damien's estate didn't feel like a trip. It felt like a kidnapping with velvet seats. Maya sat in the back of the armored SUV, Aiden asleep against her chest, while Damien sat beside her in silence. Not peaceful silence, controlled, dangerous silence. The kind that came from a man running calculations in his mind, eliminating threats, making decisions that determined who lived and who didn't. His phone buzzed nonstop. He ignored every call. Outside the tinted windows, more vehicles followed, black SUVs filled with Damien's men. A convoy that moved like a private army. Maya struggled to breathe. Finally, she found her voice. "What happened back there? Is that normal in your world?" Damien didn't look at her. He answered simply, "Normal means you're dead before you hit the floor." She swallowed hard. He added, "Tonight was sloppy. Someone inside my circle leaked my location. A traitor. Close. Dangerous." "And you think I'm involved?" Maya asked quietly. Damien finally turned his head, his gaze sharp and unreadable. "I think," he said, "that nothing in my world ever happens by accident." Before she could respond, his second-in-command, Jack, spoke from the passenger seat. "Boss, we lost visual on the third car in the convoy." Damien stiffened. "How?" "Signal interference. Someone hacked our route." Maya felt a chill crawl up her spine. Damien's voice dropped into lethal calm. "They're moving fast. They want the baby." Jax nodded. "Or they want the woman." Maya's chest tightened. Damien looked at her again, this time assessing, reading her, deciding whether she was a weapon or a target. "Whoever this is," he said coldly, "they knew you would calm Aiden. They waited for the moment. They used it." "But I didn't," Maya snapped, panic rising. "I don't know anything about your world. I didn't even know your name until 10 minutes ago." Damien didn't blink. "You think that clears you?" His tone wasn't cruel, just cold factual. This was a man who had buried people for less. Suddenly, a loud explosion shook the vehicle. The SUV swerved violently. A car behind them went up in flames, lit sky high in a blast that rocked the entire road. Damien braced one hand on the seat, the other automatically moving toward Aiden, protective without thought. Jack shouted, "Ambush!" Gunfire erupted from the hill above. Bullets pinged against the armored exterior. Maya screamed, shielding Aiden. Damien snapped, "Drive through!" The driver accelerated, tires screeching as they plowed forward. More shots, more smoke, more shouts. Damien leaned toward Maya, voice low but razor sharp. "You see now why leaving you at the restaurant wasn't an option?" She trembled. "Why are they after me? I'm nobody." Damien's gaze hardened. "There are no nobodies in my world. Someone wants you involved. Someone wants you dead or in my hands. Both are problems." Maya felt the ground drop beneath her. No matter what she said now, Damien wouldn't believe her completely. Not yet. Maybe not ever. The convoy finally burst into the safety of the estate gates, massive steel doors slamming shut behind them with a thundering echo. They slid to a stop in the courtyard of Damien's mansion.